this as of now, giving some time for folks to come in. I'm going to send an updated Zoom invite with the meeting ID in a very, very large font. Let's see, we'll make that 16. Thank you, everyone that's already in attendance. Just being considerate of others that may be having technical logon issues. I know Zoom isn't always seamless, so I'm just going to give us a few more minutes for anyone that's still trying to log on. And John, I'll give it until we'll give it until 10:05 if that's
Sure.
okay with you. Okay.
Maria, life is different now. So when I finish with this, I'll walk the dog and then I'll go lap swim.
Yeah, see, right. And you're all, and then you just go back to your desk and continue on. It's silver linings, So many silver linings in the recent year. Gosh, it's already been a year since all the shutdowns really took hold. What a year. Thank you, everyone that's logging on. Just a heads up, I'm going to give it until 10:05 because I know the Zoom invite can be a little tricky sometimes. And forgive me if I mute you without your consent. I'm just doing that for housekeeping purposes. And just one more minute here. We'll probably have a few people joining a little late, but that's totally okay. Just give it one more minute here. Okay, I will go ahead and begin. We're at 10:05. I'd like to be respectful of everybody's time. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for making this morning informational session that will explain the financial literacy workshop initiative that is currently underway at the Allen Hancock campus. My name is Maria Grando, and I'm the Title V Grant Coordinator. Our campus has been chosen as part of a small cohort of California community colleges to take part in a program sponsored by the California Community College Chancellor's Office to develop strategies to explain financial literacy for both staff and faculty, as well as our students. Being chosen as part of this pilot is a big deal, and this is also a brand new initiative for the Hancock campus. The first step in this great endeavor is to train high-touch faculty and staff, such as yourselves, to gain information, skills, and understanding with respect to money matters that will be relevant conversational topics with all students on campus, but especially students coming from underserved or underrepresented backgrounds. By attending the 5-part workshop series that will run every Friday, which will be offered as professional development, beginning April 2nd through the 30th, you will be better prepared to have intentional and informed conversations with students when it comes to aspects of budgeting, credit-related problems, and effectively managing money and students' relationships with it. I have the distinct pleasure to introduce John Pearson, who will work with his counterpart, CJ Julep, who is not on the call, but will be facilitating the workshops once they begin, to introduce the financial literacy workshop. We have saved some time to answer any questions that you may have as well, but please stay tuned because we will hopefully be answering many initial questions during this session. I encourage you to ask questions throughout via the chat box, and I will do my best to answer the chat as we go. But I will be also saving the chat and recording this as I mentioned. So if I can always get back to you if we're not able to answer your question today. And I will go ahead and give John the floor so he may let us know about the exciting aspects of this initiative. And if I'm just going to go ahead and share the presentation in just a moment. Okay, John, we'll go ahead and go into present mode. And you just let me know when to change the slide. Oh, I think you're on mute there, John. Sorry. Did I? There you go.
Unmute.
There we go.
How about that?
There we go. I can hear you.
Okay. So I'm a consultant working with the Chancellor's office, and we are working on what we think is something that's a little bit novel. When we started thinking about financial literacy and promoting financial literacy within the California Community College system, we looked at what works and what doesn't work in a community college setting. In fact, we looked at what works and what doesn't work in higher education, in 4-year schools and 2-year schools. And we learned a great deal. One of the fundamental things that we learned is that if a community college sets up a workshop to talk about any particular financial literacy topic, and they put hours and hours into working on creating the workshop and then promoting it, and when the day comes for the workshop, nobody comes, nobody shows up, and people are upset. But it turns out that this is very normal in a community college setting. It's probably pretty normal in any post-secondary institution. The students don't know what they don't know, and they don't really think about what they might learn that could be of value. As we looked into this, we learned a lot more about what the differences are between students who attend 4-year schools, typically, and students who typically attend 2-year schools, what their lives are like, how they're different, and what that might suggest for what financial wellness looks like, or promoting financial wellness in the 2 different student populations. And so, we've been thinking about this and working on this for the better part of the last year. And we started reaching out to the Title V schools, one of which was Allen Hancock, because we knew that, and this will become apparent why this is important. We knew that both student success and to perhaps a lesser degree, but important, financial literacy or financial wellness were key features of Title V grants. And one of the things that we discovered in doing the research that we did is that there is a convergence between student success and financial wellness in a community college setting that doesn't really exist in a 4-year school, particularly 4-year schools where students are living on campus. And so we've been working now with a handful of, we think about them as beta schools, but we really are working with Title V schools because we think we have mutual interests in creating some new tools and new approaches that might work a little bit better than anything that we've done in the past. But let's look at a little data, because I'm a big fan of data-driven projects. Can we go to that next slide? So these are some of the things. This is not everything that we know about community college students, either in California or in any other community college setting. So about 75% of community college students are working either full or part-time. They're self-supporting to a large extent. About half of community college students drop out or consider dropping out during the first year of enrollment because of financial difficulties. So if I'm a school and I'm worried about keeping students in school, if student success and retention is important to me, if I'm not paying attention to students who are having financial difficulties, then I might be missing a large portion or a significant subset of students who end up dropping out, and nobody ever knows why they left. 70% of students have experienced financial difficulties while enrolled in their current institution. It's a lot. You know, these are not students who are living at home with mom and dad are paying for all of their expenses. That's not the group that we're really intentionally reaching out to with this initiative. Let's go ahead to the next slide. About 45% of students said that they would be unlikely, and this isn't so shocking, but the scale of it, I think, is really important, that they would be unlikely to come up with $400 in cash if they had a financial emergency while they're in school. It just seems like something that it's a different level of risk. And if I can't come up with $400, if I have a financial emergency, and of course, if I don't know much about managing my money, I'm more likely to have a financial emergency. And so this idea of not being able to have the resources in an emergency is really important. 75% or 75% of respondents agreed that they were stressed out about their personal finances in general. You should go, and I don't know if this link is available, but you probably could cut and paste this link. But this data, some of it at least, comes from an Ohio State survey that was just conducted. It's fairly fresh. Some of the data is from last year, from a different source, but you can certainly take a look at the financial wellness of students in community colleges, and a large portion, significant portion, about half of the community colleges that participated in this study by Ohio State in 2020 were from California. So we think it's a nice representative sample. So what we know, what we believe to be true, is that students in community colleges, and we can flip to the next slide, have an unmet need when it comes to very simply money management. That it's not the power of money, it's the power of knowledge about money. It's the power of being able to manage my money in such a way that I don't have crises, or if I do, I can meet those crises. And that enables me to stay in school. Let's go ahead a little bit. So what we've done is to reach out to some schools and said, we'd like to see whether or not we can address some of these issues, what we think about are unmet needs for community college students when it comes to money management as a plank in a support framework that's stable, that enables a student to stay in school no matter what happens. That what we want to do is reach out to schools and see if we can't build some resources that will meet some of these issues and maybe get ahead of them. And again, one of the things that we learned is that what we do is deliver things to students that they don't even think they need, but we really do know that they do. It's one of the surveys that I enjoy looking at a great deal is a survey from an outfit in Texas called Trellis. And Trellis, by the way, is doing a survey, another survey. They do one annually every fall. But their survey of financial wellness is very clever because they will start out, it's a fairly in-depth survey. It only takes about 25 minutes for a student to fill it out. It's done online. But one of the things that they do is to ask the student, how they feel about the level of financial knowledge that they have and their ability to manage their money and to stay out of trouble. And typically at the beginning of the survey, they have, and through the course of the survey, they will ask some version of the same question about how capable do you think you are? And when they first ask the question, about 80% of the students say, I've got this. I really don't have any issues here. I really know what I'm doing. And as they run through the survey, as the students go through the questions about all sorts of different circumstances, by the time they get to the end of the survey, only about 20% of the students will respond by saying, I really have this. I really know what I'm doing. Because they've been faced with questions and circumstances that reveal to them what they don't know and how much they don't know. So I think we're going to be promoting that survey, by the way, in another month. We're going to do a webinar with the folks from Trellis so that we can get a maximum number of California community colleges to sign up. It's a free survey. Anyway, so what we've done is to come up with some resources. And some of those resources really are to kind of plug this hole, like a hole in the donut. When you ask what schools are doing to promote student success on campus, they're doing lots and lots of things. A lot around academics, a lot around personal counseling, kind of normalizing the college experience for students who don't have a background in that. But not many schools are working with particularly high-touch staff to be alert, to listen, in effect, for students who are having financial problems. And we know a large percentage, a large subset of students will have financial challenges. And so what we do is we try and prepare faculty and staff to listen for those kinds of conversations that might occur with students around financial wellness or personal financial management or money management issues that have arisen for the student. And so that the staff person doesn't just walk right by it. They listen for it, they hear it. And we want them to be able to have a conversation with the student about that. And we have some really, really good training for that so that staff and student ambassadors, student mentors can learn to be alert and be responsive to these kinds of issues when they come up with students. At some of the schools, we offer it to everybody, but one of the things that we offer is a way to build capacity because CJ and I are not going to be around forever, but we are going to be available to provide training for staff at no cost who would like to become certified financial educators so that there's somebody on campus who can provide some guidance about what might work for students in the future. And you may choose to develop more resources, but it would be nice to have some folks around who can carry that, who can be leaders in that. And so we have some additional training beyond the the 5-section or 5-segment course for faculty and staff and for students, separately for students who have high touch with other students. It could be ambassadors, mentors, people who work in the financial aid office, people who work in the admissions office who are talking to students. But we are again available and ready to provide some in-depth training for however many people you want from Allen Hancock to take advantage of that. Why don't we go ahead? So the other thing, we have a number of other things that we can do as well that we offer. One is a texting or email initiative that is available to the school. It's really plug and play. All the material is developed. We'll do some training with whoever is going to be doing it. But if I were to invite Allen Hancock students, let's say to a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon workshop on money management, particularly related to budget and credit, which are the real weaknesses that these students have. They don't think they do, but they really do. It would take about 4 hours of in-depth instruction to give them an overview of budget and credit issues and some strategies that they could adopt to better manage. We know they're not going to come, and it's really would be a waste of time to do that. So what we've done is to break up a workshop like that into 20 segments, 10 about budget, 10 about credit. And what a school will do is to and either make it mandatory or let students opt in or opt out to receive them. But what we have available is a strategy for the school to push this information to a student's phone or to their iPad. And they're all bits, they're all chunks that if the student looks at all of them, it will be the same as if they had gone to that 4-hour workshop. But we do two bits a week, maybe Tuesday, Thursday. One is about budget, the other is about credit. And if the student is faithful about looking at all that material, and it doesn't take much time, that they'll walk away at the end of the term with knowing a bit more about money management than they did, than they knew at the beginning. Again, this is a plug and play, and it's not, you don't have to do this, but we certainly recommend it for first-year, first-time students who are going to be the students that are targeted with some of these initiatives. Another thing that we're building is a Canvas-based money management course that will be available to both staff and students on Canvas. And students could use it. So somebody in a class or in a TRIO program could say to the students, well, during the course of the term, we want you to work all the way through that 15 module course. And at the end, you'll get a certificate. Again, but it's much the same information that we're going to talk to them about over and over again about budget and credit and about money management for community college students. Or what will be available in Canvas, this 15 module course, can be used in individual pieces or sets, so that if I'm working with a TRIO program, I might take a look at that 15 topic course and say, you know, what I want to do is talk to my students about this piece and that piece and that piece, so I can extract modules out of it to work directly with my students, and we can have conversations about those modules in class or in a group setting or in a counseling setting. So it can be used in all sorts of different ways. Each one is stands on its own. I mean, all of them together provide a lot of information that community college students need to know about managing money successfully, but they can be extracted and used for special purposes if faculty and staff or people in special programs want to do that. And then the other thing that we expect to have online sometime later this spring is what we think about. And so everything so far has been inward facing for students once they are in school. So we want to develop, and we're in the process of developing, an outward facing page that can be attached to the financial aid website that will be for students and their families, prospective students, probably students who haven't applied yet. And what we envision is that people who are working in outreach, doing recruitment of prospective students, could alert students that, here at Allen Hancock, we want everybody to be really familiar with money management. And there's a page or a link associated with our financial aid office or our financial aid website that we think could be valuable to you. And right now, what we think is, if many years ago, some of you may remember this, but most likely not, when USA Today entered the scene of national newspapers, one of the things that they added to their front page was directing readers to, like, the 5 things you need to know about the interview between the royal family and whomever, right? Here are the 5 things you need to know, not the 10 things, not the 25 things, not an in-depth 6-page article, but what are the 5 things you need to know? And so one of the things that I realized was that there was a reason for that. Most people want to know about the 5 important things, right? Everybody has a level of attention or an attention span. So, and are unlikely to look at a web page or a set of web pages that goes on for 15 pages, all of which could be valuable. But we know that they're not likely to do that. So what we envisioned for this outward-facing page about financial wellness for prospective community college students, here are the 5 things or the 6 things that community college students need to know about money management. Now, they may see these things again as part of that Canvas-based module. They may have conversations with high-touch staff about some of these very same things. They may see some of these same things if they participate in the pushed text or pushed email initiative about what do you need to know about budget and credit as a community college student. But our idea is to present these and to present it with a little bit of text or a little content, but everything else is going to be presented in a podcast that they will click on. So they can look and listen to it, they can look at it, they can listen to it, and we'll present this in both English and Spanish. So a school can have 2 pages, one for students who speak English and the other for Spanish. But we want, part of what we're trying to do is reach the families, is to be able to say, this is information for you and your family. If you're interested in going to Allen Hancock, we want both you and your family to be more familiar with this kind of information because we think it's going to help you be successful. So those are some of the core things that we're going to be providing to Allen Hancock between now and the fall. And some of them could be useful to you in what you're doing. Maybe you're interested in participating in the training so that you could be more familiar with budget and credit issues. It doesn't mean you have to be an expert, but to be able to listen for students who are having these kinds of issues and to be able to facilitate getting the student in touch with the help that they need. I mean, that's really, we want people to learn to listen and to be usefully responsive to students around some of these issues. Anyway, I'm very interested in whatever questions you might have that I can answer. We're just creating these things now, and what we've learned from working with a couple of other schools that are a little bit ahead of where Allen Hancock is in the development of some of these resources that when you look at these things, you'll have ideas about how you can make them better. And we want to hear that. Um, we're not telling you that we are absolutely the experts about what Allen Hancock should be doing. And all along the line over the last 3 months, as uh, as our school partners have looked at what we've developed in every case, we've gotten feedback from the schools and from people at schools who have said to us, look, that looks okay, but we might want to include this other thing in as well, because I've had conversations with students about this, and it wasn't anything that we had thought of. So we're really looking at this as a partnership in developing some of these resources between now and the fall. So I promised Maria that I wouldn't go on and on and on. I hope that I haven't, and I hope that I can't see on my Zoom screen that anybody's still here, but I hope you are.
Thank you, John. Yeah, so to kind of give you all a preview into what these five workshops will cover for staff and faculty. So to kind of sum up, there's two aspects of this initiative. We're training the high touch faculty and staff, and we're going to do a second round of that as well in the summer to just, personally equip you, with money matter related intelligence and skills, but also to be able to, as John said, recognize these conversations when they're occurring among students, be able to intentionally listen to what they're saying, and be able to recognize that this is the conversation, and this is maybe the advice or the guidance that they may need. And then the second component is to train the student ambassadors and the peer mentors, and they'll have a little bit more of a different component to their trainings, but it's all the same thing. It's really to have your own personal financial literacy, your own personal financial skin, so to speak, and be able to kind of relay that knowledge onto others, because it's a big effort. This takes the whole campus and the whole community in many ways. So it doesn't make sense for just one party to be leading this. This is a group effort. So to just kind of give you a quick preview for what the workshops will entail, the topics include the psychology of money, spending and financial planning, saving and investing, managing credit and debt, and financial products and identity theft. And I want to also make a plug for CJ Julef. I mean, she is known around the nation. She is the best in the business. And if you haven't had a chance to hear her speak yet, she's great. And I think the way she has a way of communicating with different populations in a way that it's relatable. You feel like you actually have something to gain from this person, which I think in many workshop endeavors that might be sometimes missing for either the faculty or the students. And then also to give a preview, if you're interested in what the student workshops would look like. And we're very much working, this is a year, this is going to take a few years. So this is the beginning of this great big effort. But the the workshop topics will include beginning the conversation, what's your money attitude, mantra, and history, budget or a spending plan, making savings a habit, are you credit ready, and alternative financial services cost. So these topics, in a personal standpoint, unless you're a financial guru, and please call me so we can have dinner. But unless you already have this inherent brilliant skills of, financial perfection, I think anyone could have something to gain from these workshops. So that's just kind of my plug that I wanted to add on to this. And I'll go ahead and actually stop sharing my screen so we can start seeing each other's faces a bit more. It looks like I just want to check the chat. Okay, so it looks like there was a question if this would be available in Spanish as well. Awesome question. Yes. All of the student-based resources, such as the Push Text Initiative, the resources to be available to first-year students and their families, and essentially any in the Canvas course shells, those will be all translated for students, of course, in Spanish. And I did have one more, and I apologize if I'm going too quickly. I'll go ahead. I had a question to please restate the workshop topics. So for the high touch faculty and staff, it'll include Psychology of money first, second, spending and financial planning, third, saving and investing, fourth, managing credit and debt, and financial products and identity theft. With the student courses, there will be, as John mentioned, a little bit more pick and choose. So there's going to be more essentially courses available than what we will probably choose, because there will be more selection in that, if I'm correct. And the student workshops will focus on, one, beginning the conversation with their peers and their colleagues. What's your money attitude, mantra, and history, excuse me, for the second one. Third is budget or spending plan. Fourth, making savings a habit. Five, are you credit ready? And six, alternative financial services cost. And, you know, as John also mentioned, there's a lot of room to customize for what Hancock students need to hear, based on the sort of population needs. So it's really exciting, and also really great to know that, you know, we can really customize this to better serve our students, which is the entire, I think, point of this initiative. John, would you like to add anything to what I just said, or any other thoughts?
Yeah, the one thing that I would say is that the training sessions for faculty and staff and for student ambassadors or peer mentors, that will not be translated into Spanish.
Oh, the training, the actual workshop session.
Yeah, the workshop sessions are all going to be in English.
Okay.
If we have things for students, we'll translate into Spanish.
Like as far as deliverables and
Not for rank and file students, not the student ambassadors or the peer mentors, or students who are working in the financial aid office or other roles around the campus where they interface with students a lot.
Thank you for that clarification. My apologies for providing an incorrect answer. And with that, I wanted to really leave some room for people to ask any questions. And so if John, if you're okay with it, I'd like to go ahead and open the floor for
Sure.
our attendees. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to get out of the way? And if you're uncomfortable with unmuting, that's totally fine. You can always ask in the chat as well, and I'll just read it off.
Hi, Maria. It's Stephanie Robb. I have a question for John. John, how are you seeing these workshops used on other campuses in the basic needs office?
The workshops. Are we talking about the workshops to familiarize faculty and staff or students?
The ones for the students. I think maybe even to kind of narrow.
So why don't you help me more?
Yeah.
What are you getting at here?
Are you seeing? So we have emergency funds that is currently being awarded to students, and are other colleges using it? You must attend these workshops in order to get the funding, or is it just recommended, or how can we incentivize them to participate in the workshops?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
So if you're talking about students in programs where they're in a leadership position, is that what you're saying?
No, just students who apply for financial assistance from our campus.
Right.
So then we want them to participate in these beneficial workshops, but what is the motivation for them to do that? Is there any requirement?
So keep in mind that the training that Maria is talking about, that the students that we want to train are students who would be in a position of who perform a function or a role on campus where they come into contact with other regular students. And they could be student ambassadors, peer mentors, students who work in the financial aid office or in admissions. They could be hired to work in specific programs like a TRIO program, more in a leadership role. But what we're trying to do with those students is provide them with a deeper level of understanding about money management, looked at in many different ways. This is not training for regular students who are attending Allen Hancock. I
Oh,
want
okay.
to be clear
So this
about
is
that. We
just
have other ways
training
for them to learn things,
that.
but the
Oh,
training sessions that we have are not for them. These are training sessions for people who will be in a position to have conversations with their
with the students.
peers.
Okay. Oh, thank you for that clarification. So I do oversee the student ambassador program. We do a lot of
Mhm.
outreach, so we definitely will want to train our, staff and then the student workers. Oh, great. Thank
Right,
you.
right.
Yes, Stephanie, excellent question. And yeah, your students will be probably the most relevant folks to get trained in the first round. And talking about institutionalizing this, I've had some conversations with folks on campus. What is the 3-4 year plan of getting this embedded into the the DNA of the campus? And incentivization will be important. I think for now, thankfully, we will be targeting students that already would be interested in taking this. The peer tutors, maybe students that work in EOPS and CanTrio. So in many ways, we make it'll be a already kind of captive audience. But I think you bring up a very good question of if we ever decide to branch this out and make this a little bit more accessible to all students, that'll be a much bigger conversation we have. But it's good to kind of have this in the back of our minds, in many ways, this will evolve maybe a little bit over time. It only makes sense. So thank you, Stephanie. That's a really good question.
Great. Thank you.
So I just as a one thought that I have, this 15 element, 15 part training material that's going to be on Canvas. There's nothing that says that if you had certain pieces of that and you wanted to take it into Pathways or into Puente or Trio, and you had students and you wanted to have student leaders or students who are working in those programs facilitate conversations. It doesn't have to be faculty or staff. It could be a very interesting experience to have students who are in a leadership role in those programs to gain some additional training about different segments that would appear in Canvas. But keep in mind, everything that we're presenting, we're not going to give everybody on campus everything they could possibly need to know about financial wellness. What we know from the data is that community college students have huge challenges that are related to budget and credit, simply managing money well enough to stay in school. We're not going to be spending much time delivering information about investments, real estate, collectibles, other things that they could learn about that can be part of a conversation. What we're really going in the direction of is how are we going to manage your money so that you can stay in school at Allen Hancock long enough to graduate or to successfully transfer. And that being said, what they'll get on that outward facing page for both students and their families will be the top 5 or 6 issues about money management for community college students. That same information will reappear magically as part of the Canvas material. It'll reappear in some of the pushed information, because what we believe with community college students is that you tell them something and then you tell them again, and then you tell them what you told them, and then maybe you repeat that you tell them what you told them. But it's about adult education, and that there are certain tried and true ways that have to do with repetition that help students finally gain some understanding of, oh, well, I guess this applies to me. That could be useful to me. Keep in mind, we're in the very beginning of this project. And as in the out years, and I think Maria is hitting on it, we don't know what you're going to need next year or the year after. My expectation is that we will be here to help you develop that. But this is where we're starting.
Yeah, and a really good example to kind of maybe a good example of what these student workshops will cover, the instance of a student getting a $3,000 check. They've never gotten this much money before in their entire life. They don't have a bank account that they could put it into. And how do we proceed from there? And this, this requires
Right.
this
Right.
requires knowledge, and so that is one of our, just a small example of what we like our student facilitators to be ready to address, and also of course our high touch faculty and staff. Any other questions or concerns, emotional outbursts?
Hi, Maria and John. My name is Marina Washburn, and I'm in adult education here in Allen Hancock College over in community ed. And it sounds like the training is for the students and staff that will come into contact with the overall student population, or the high majority of the student population. And
Yes.
John, you've mentioned that there are other ways of providing students workshops or training, or other ways of providing financial literacy education. Is that part of the scope? Is there a plan to incorporate that other element?
Yes, down the line, yes. Like,
If there are things that you want, we will help you develop them. What we're trying to do is, as an example with the outward facing page, to integrate some kind of financial education related to budget and credit, things that students need to know to be successful in managing their money while attending community college, to associate that with the financial aid website, so that students and their families can go and look at that information or listen to a podcast about a particular topic. They'll have more of that information available on Canvas. They can receive, depending upon how you want to use it, to have information pushed to them personally, to their phones or to their laptops or their iPads, about budget and credit, and have this done on a regular basis. We know that this actually works because we borrowed that concept from another school in Texas that has been now doing something like that for about 5 years. And what they've noticed is that the students who opt in to receive this information that's pushed to them personally, they get it right on their phone or they get it right on their laptop, are 15% more likely to be in school next year. So we know that it has an effect, a student success effect, on students who actually choose to participate. Now, are there other students who look at this information or this kind of opportunity and say, don't need it, sorry, know everything? We know that there are students who will attend Allen Hancock and will believe that to be true. And they'll believe that to be true even after they drop out of school because they had money management issues. And there's really nothing, what can you do? We do the best we can to make things available, to present it to people in as clear a way as we can, and to make it available through as many voices, as many ears, as many eyes on campus as we can.
and we definitely have a lot of opportunities to embed this for the student workshops, embed that in different ways. But the big thing is that I don't foresee this as being something that students need to do in order to get something beyond the knowledge and the certificate of completion. But I know we're more so offering that for faculty. So I hope to relieve any sort of apprehension that, what John said is, a pizza party, it's only so much. So we're definitely going to be creative and find more than one way for this information to be accessible to students, for these workshops to be something that they want to be part of, and not, something that they feel like they have to do just so they can get somewhere. So we're definitely getting creative with this, and of course, this is really in the starting phases. So it'll be really interesting and really cool to see how things unfold, and how this effort works out. I think.
So,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
Maria, let me give it one other example. If I were in a TRIO program, I might not say, I could say, go to the workshop on Saturday afternoon. that Maria is presenting a workshop on Saturday afternoon about saving. And we recommend that you do that. And I can guarantee that only a tiny percentage or proportion of the students that are presented with that opportunity are actually going to show up at that workshop. And that's a different experience than importing the material from that workshop or pieces of it into the classroom or into that setting where my trio students are, and having a conversation right there, right then about that same information.
Thank you.
Now, if you wanted to train your ambassadors, and I'm sorry I didn't get your name, if you want to train your ambassadors to be, in effect, money management ambassadors, we will help you do that. It's not necessarily something that we think works well in a 2-year college setting. It works very well in a 4-year college setting, because you can identify, let's say, somebody who's really excited about learning this and wanting to share it with other people, like a money management nerd, let's say, when they're a freshman at your school, and they could be around for 4 or 5 years and be a very useful part of the team. You don't really have that kind of opportunity in a community college setting to have students around long enough so that they can become experts and go-to people in delivering financial wellness information in a group setting or in a classroom. So we're trying to modify that. But if you want certain students to be more better trained or more deeply trained about some of this, we're happy to work with you to do that.
That would be great. I look forward to that.
Thanks, Stephanie. So I like to be respectful of everybody's time. We're getting close to the last 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes of the meeting. Any other questions that anyone would like to ask? And by all means, this isn't forever hold your peace kind of thing. Please feel free to also email me at any time after, and I'm happy to meet and talk to you about any questions or concerns you may have. The big point of this presentation is to hopefully garner interest that you all can take away and hopefully share amongst your colleagues and amongst your the folks in your department, because I know there is another training at this same time and so a lot of folks weren't able to make this time slot. So for the folks that are on this call, I really encourage you to spread the word. I'll be sending out more, informational emails and invites about the workshops once they actually start on April 2nd. But I just wanted to provide some time for everyone to kind of get introduced to this before we start and have some time to think this over, any questions, concerns. And so I am very grateful that you all attended. With that said, do we have any closing questions or anything that anyone would like to bring to the table right now?
I just want to thank you, Maria and John. I do see this as very valuable for, I'm the Aim to Dream Center coordinator. So I do see the need in our students. So I will ask our facilitators to also attend the training, as well as I'll be present too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And the student, we'll begin the student workshops during the summer. So that's just a heads up for you. We have some time for that as well, and finding our students for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So those that attend, as I mentioned, you will be receiving a certificate of completion from the Chancellor's office. We will be requiring everyone that is, in order to receive the certificate, you will be required to review all of the recordings. I will not make attendance mandatory for the live sessions this round, but I may choose to be a bit of a stickler more for our second round, just because there'll be more time for people to prepare. So again, if you have any questions.
Maria, you might have somebody here who's interested in.
I have a question, Maria.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hi, Liz.
So, sorry, I've been here way too long and maybe that's a problem, but my concern is this, that it's a great idea and I love it. And I think we're going to do all this great stuff to roll it out. And then what will happen is that in 3 years, we think everybody knows what's going on when we have a brand new crop of students. So how do we get it in our mind that every year we need to be training our new, because again, I'm looking at Stephanie, we get fresh ambassadors every year, right? We get new tutors in the Mass Center every semester. And so am I kind of making sense? Or maybe I'm not making a question, but more of a like thought for you to germinate with. But how are you gonna set it up that it's an annual, we start basically from ground zero again, which can be extremely frustrating at times.
That's a
Because
good
you feel like you've already done it.
Right. Yeah. And I think that kind of touches on my, long-term seeing things, 3, 4 years from now. I think having it available in multiple ways, either, in the PD 101 courses, as a training component for the student ambassadors and, folks that already are signing up in a role that they're going to be supporting students as well as being a student. And I think, yeah, being creative with how we offer it and it being offered in multiple different capacities and ways, as accessible as possible is where I'm at right now. But this is a continued conversation that is going to involve a lot of folks. So yeah, it'll be.
Well, again, I just would say, like, I might talk to Stephanie or maybe like Sylvia in the Mass Center. How is it that they make sure that every year they readdress it, like it's a bunch, because there are a bunch of newbies again.
Right. It's a good question.
Right. No,
Right.
that's a great question. And well, let's think about it right now.
I mean, I don't have the answer. I'm just putting it out
No,
there.
I don't know. I'm not sure I have an answer either.
No.
But it does raise a really important question about how do you build it into what we, in effect, what we do at Allen Hancock, so that unlike, well, even at a four-year school, I mean, at Syracuse University, they have 25 student trained money management mentors. And they have a new crop that gets trained every year.
Mm-hmm.
So they send them to training. They send them to online training. And I don't know how we would do that. We can figure it out.
Yeah,
But I think it's a really, really great question. And it's the kind of thing in a community college setting that you have to pay attention to, because you're not going to have a pipeline of people who are around for 4 years or 5 years.
Right.
As student ambassadors who are specifically trained to have conversations with their fellow students about money management.
Yeah. I don't know if we ever will be done, honestly. This will be always a, I think, evolving and continuing effort. And that,
well,
yeah.
So one of the things, though, Maria, that we offer, because faculty and staff are likely to be around longer than your ambassadors, is the opportunity for some faculty and staff, whoever's interested really, to become certified financial educators. And to become the content leaders on campus, so that next year, when there's a need to train a new cohort of ambassadors, you have somebody who's there.
Yeah,
Somebody who's there. I mean, this is not a big deal. I mean, we can do this, but it would have to be somebody who's interested in assuming that kind of, in gaining that knowledge and assuming that kind of leadership role on campus. So in effect, building capacity for all of these kind of moving parts. And to the extent that there would be people who are interested, there's nothing that says that everything that we create now has to stay the same. Mm-hmm. You may rethink what we created this year and what you start using, and you may find better ways to do it. And I'm great with that. We're just really interested in finding ways to help students. This is about students, your regular rank and file new students, having the resources available so that they don't leave school because of money management challenges that went bad. This is not about reading. It's not about study habits. but it is about student success as it relates to poor decisions when it comes to money management.
Thank you, John. And with that, we are at time. Thank you for all your great questions. What I'll go ahead is I'm totally fine with staying after a little bit. I know, John, you may have to run, but if
No, I'd be happy to continue. I really am interested in this whole idea of how do we build in continuity for peer mentors or student ambassadors or students who just work at the school and who the school wants to train to be able to listen for and respond to students that have come into the office and say, I really screwed up. I did blah, 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 whatever happened. And I don't know what to do. And
Yeah.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to drop out of school because of it.
Thank you, John. So with that said, sorry, I was just typing out a chat response. John and I are more than happy to stick around if you want to chat with us one-on-one, but I will be respectful for other folks that have to run. Thank you for attending this meeting. You are free to leave and free also to hang out.
Thank you for coming, though.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And I'll be sharing this recording with everyone that was on the email invite. So yeah, thank you all.
So I do have to run to office hours, but before you go, I just wanted to tell you, so funny that you would start this because, you know, I teach math. Maria knows I teach math, so I teach math, John, I'm a nerd. And every semester in all of my classes, I find some poor, even in geometry, like where there's no exponential growth. I'm like, let's talk about investing. And I do a spreadsheet. I get out Excel and I get out a spreadsheet. And I pick on a student, like, you know, okay, I know Maria's not 18, but I'm like, how old are you? And they're like, I'm 18. I'm like, okay, you think you're going to get a job? I'm going to get a job. And I'm like, okay, let's say you get a career going at 25. And then I have them invest $1,000 a month, which is kind of actually a lot. You know what I mean? But
yes.
It's a lot. I tell you, this is a lot, but this is kind of to help you see what can happen, right? So then I tell them, let's actually just call it 10 grand a year, right? Like it doesn't have to be the whole 1,000. Like I just want 10 grand a year from you. And I tell them often, remember, you're living on a lot less than that. And it's easy when you get the job to just buy the car, buy the house, get the sofa, the big TV. Right. But if you can remember how you lived before and be a little frugal, you could do this, right? Because you're suddenly making a lot more money. And then I do the, you know, they invest it and I usually assume 5 or 6% because I'm like, assume you invested wisely into some mutual various things and it's growing at about that rate because we know that that's not really unheard of over time. So the reason I choose that is that by the time they're 65, they get $1 million.
Right.
Right. So I'm like, you're a millionaire. So then what's really fun is, so I'm kind of younger looking, especially because Zoom doesn't show the grace so much. Mm-hmm. So I tell the students, okay, so suppose I'm 45 and I start investing now. So right away they go, well, you have like half as many years because we talk about, you know, they had 40 years, blah, 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 blah. So I go, you know, I only have 20 years. And they're like, well, you should do double. And I go, okay, I'll do double. And what's great to see is the look on their face. Now it sucks now with Zoom, but in a classroom, it would be great because you'd hear a few of them go, because of course, after 20 years, even double, I don't have.
Not going to make it. Right.
I'm not even halfway to what they had. I mean, I don't have to tell you that, but it's an interesting one because then I tell them, you don't have to invest that much. You could just invest $20. Yeah, that's a building. And so it's interesting what you're talking about because you're right. So many of them don't know. And they've asked me these random questions afterwards. Like, they're like, yeah, I bought a new car, but I never had a checking account or a savings account. So I have no credit history.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, so your interest rate's over 15%, right? Oh yeah.
Right.
And then they ask me and I go, mine is 3. And they don't understand either the difference between that 3% and the 15%, right? And I'm like, it's not 5 times. It's, I mean, I don't have to tell you, right? But so I appreciate what you're trying to do here with them because they don't understand.
They don't know.
They don't know and they get caught And the worst is Maria knows me to be a vocal faculty member. They used to have the credit card people out on campus. And I would get all upset about it. I know it's free speech and right to free speech, but I'm like, that's predatory to me.
Right.
You know, and I was like, even though I'm a pro-life, a pro-choicer, like I fully believe in pro-choice, I'd rather have the abortion people out there with their freaking baby pictures. Like, I'd rather put up with that than the freaking lenders. I'm like,
I hear you.
you know what I mean?
I
I'm
hear
like,
ya.
get the Bible thumper out there again. Like, just displace them with the Bible thumper.
So tell me, our credit card folks are banned from your campus, I think.
I don't, you know, well, now everybody's banned from campus, but I don't know. They haven't been around as much. I don't see them
Right.
as often. I think
Right.
that a lot of faculty were complaining about the predatoriness of it.
Good.
But again, you know, that's an issue because we're a public campus. So it violates the right to free speech, and we have free speech, you know, we have policies on that. And actually we talked about it recently, and that was one of the ones I brought up, that I was like, those people shouldn't be allowed on campus. But they technically are, in the same way that the pro-lifers and the pro-choice people can be on campus. The only thing we cannot allow is like hate speech, and it's not hate speech. But again, the students don't understand. They don't know what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
So I appreciate what you're saying. And I wanted you to
So
also,
if that's true, why not allow people who operate a mobile casino, a mobile tavern? In New Jersey, I know that they just opened up the sale of marijuana. Why not have little mobile marijuana shops on campus? You know,
well, and
if it's
funny you
about
bring that
free
one up
speech,
because-
if it's about free speech, I mean, what the heck?
Well, and it's funny because, as Maria would tell you, we do have our winery here, and we do sell wine on campus. So you're right. I'm going to start selling homebrew on campus, see if I can make some cash. I mean, the models might blow up, but whatever. At least I got some
I'll try it,
Right.
Liz. I'll try it. I'll take a gamble.
Is this
John,
speech?
I
Go ahead,
have a
Marina.
question too. We've been looking at developing non-credit courses in financial literacy, and I'm wondering if you're doing that with any college or university. That would create some sustainability to the program if we integrated it into something like that, where we have a faculty member and staff that are, you know, always going to be there. Is that something that we can approach you on? Is how, you know, developing the curriculum as a consultant?
I don't see why you can't approach us about it. But it may be, I actually have two different responses. One, when we finish the Canvas, the 15 module Canvas material, there may be something there that you can pull off the shelf, right? To create a curriculum. The other thing is that I do know that, and Maria, this is something I think, I'm not sure if it's Reedley or Napa Valley, but one of the other schools has faculty who are developing a financial literacy curriculum to do the same thing that you're talking about. And it's possible that maybe some borrowing can occur.
Were you referring to Ann Endress,
You know,
John?
I think I don't think it. No, what we had and I can't remember the school, but we had a conversation with some folks at the school just like this, and we were talking about Canvas, and they said, "Oh well, you know, we've got some, you know, we'll take all the Canvas material that you develop, we'll put it up on Canvas, but we want you to know that we have some faculty, some economics and business faculty who are already developing some financial literacy curriculum, some courses that may look at this as competitive with what they're already doing." And our point of view was, you know, why don't you just take the material and use it as best you can? You know, there may be people on campus, and the example that I gave, I think applies. so that even if you have curriculum where even not credit credit-free curriculum, that there could be pieces of material that we develop that could be used in other settings. You know, in a conversational way, in a workshop way, with a TRIO program or Puente, or in a guided pathways or a summer bridge program, you know, where you go pull that material off of Canvas and say, well, today we're going to talk about XYZ. Just today. And it's not a course per se, but it's useful material.
Thank you. It's very helpful information.
But ask us, okay?
Well,
Marina, if there's a call for curriculum, I have no doubt that we can develop it for you. We're paid for by the Chancellor's office. There's no charge for us to work with schools. And so we would have to say to the Chancellor's office, we've got a request from Alan Hancock to do a boilerplate. And that's what how I would think about it. Some boilerplate non-credit course material on financial literacy that would be presented to students in a classroom setting, not in a workshop setting, but in a classroom setting. So students are going to sign up for the class. I mean, I don't know what it looks like to you, Marina, but I'm thinking it's not really maybe a semester-long class, but a between the semester class or between terms or something like that people could sign up for. They wouldn't get credit? What would they get?
Right. We offer, the non-credit arm of the campus is credit. It's basically free to take.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of flexibility in terms of the number of hours and the way that it's delivered, because it's the non-credit side of campus.
Right.
And so the curriculum still would need to be approved by the Chancellor's office through its regular curriculum development process. It takes about 2 years once we get started to get that all fully approved into a program. But I think basically it could look like workshops to the person, to the audience. They may only pick to attend workshop A and workshop D and skip the others, which is completely fine in a non-credit scenario type of class.
Right.
So I think that's why we have the flexibility to look like workshops and to promote topics, and then do a little bit more of that one-on-one or more of the detailed training with our students or staff. So
right. The thing about workshops, I used to be a big workshop person. I used to promote, I worked with the U.S. Department of Education for a long time, and we designed workshops that were available for schools to use. And only later did we find out that people didn't go. Students never went to the workshops. You know, I mean, I got paid, but the students and the schools set them up and they scheduled them, but nobody actually showed up. And so what we're trying to do is create content that can be integrated in things that are already happening on campus. Mm-hmm. So the student is not in a position to make a decision, yes or no. They're going to get it. It's coming. It's coming to your phone. It's available on the financial aid website for you and your family to have a conversation about. We really want you to look at this. It's going to be on Canvas. And the people who run my TRIO program are going to go and get 2 or 3 of these modules every term, and they're going to bring it right into the classroom or into the meeting. You know, we're going to talk about it. I'm not going to have a choice, in other words.
Right. And I think we're looking at, there's a lot of students, we have thousands of students that don't participate in those programs that are part of adult learning community that still need that information, that still need that level of training and awareness. So I think that I'm looking at this other circle of students that are not part of that are going to miss out if we don't do something more with it.
It's like a Venn diagram.
Mm-hmm.
right? And so these circles don't overlap.
Yeah.
Right. And so how do we set up that circle with some resources that may, I suppose we'd have to have a different standard of what success looks like or
Right.
efficacy, you
Right.
know, that you have, well, okay, thank you. Well, let's, Maria, let's do this. Let's try and figure out how we can do it. This is not going to be top, priority top for us because we have so much to develop between now and let's say June. But again, when we're talking about, and I hate to sound like a broken record, we're talking about community college setting. The material that we probably would go with first would be material that's applicable to community college settings. And it's not going to be, you know, how to invest to become rich. It's going to be about money management, really bread and butter stuff about how to succeed today with the money you have. Does that, Marina, does that make sense to you that we would start out with a quote curriculum that's more useful?
Yes.
In this particular setting?
Yeah, no, I prefer that, honestly, the pick. Yeah, no, I'm all on board. Oh,
Thank you
Maria.
so much.
Marina, what do you think of that? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think we're going to see what you're doing. We're going to hear about it. I'd like to learn more about the WISE program there. And we do have a faculty member or a possible faculty member that is going to that has been proposing to develop some curriculum. So I think just having that additional resource through your agency working with the chancellor's office might help us get that ball started as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that I like about this project is that everything that we work with you to develop will be available to all the other schools in the system to use. I mean, that's part of the purpose of it. It's
thank you. Okay, I've got to run. It was
okay.
Wonderful to meet. Look forward to working with you.
Likewise.